a short? Is this a short? It's a short microphone.
Well, it's.
I say that because when I do this, it's.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. But you're loud, so it's
Okay. As long if you can't hear me, raise your hand. They do.
Okay.
They do.
Well, it's 7:30. I'm going to call the meeting of Milton Common Council for January 7th, 2022 order. And the first item on the agenda is the roll call.
Ramsey?
Here.
Sullivan?
Here.
Nelson?
Here.
Kuhn?
Here.
West?
Present.
Olson?
Here.
Burke?
Present.
And Boussard is absent.
Okay. So the next item on the agenda is the comments from the citizens present, and we have a Peggy Zimmerman to speak.
Hi, my name is Peggy Zimmerman. I've lived in Middleton for about 25 years, and I'm here regarding the next chief of police of Middleton, whom I honestly believe should be Troy Hellenbrand. I met Troy about 23 years ago when he was parked out in front of my house, and I went out there to see what was going on. He was looking for people that weren't stopping at the stop sign. He was very friendly, very nice, and I've been friends with him ever since. And he's been with the Middleton Police Department for a long time, so I just can't see anybody else getting besides Troy. He's very friendly, he's connected with the community, very good with the department, and a number of years ago, my driveway hadn't been plowed or shoveled, so he and Jill Tutai came and shoveled out my driveway for me.
Wow.
You know, so he's just a super person, and I just think that somebody that belongs to this community should become the next police chief. But anyway, it's very hard for me to come today. My back is killing me. I usually have good days and bad days, and this was a bad day, but I had to come and promote Troy to be our next police chief. Anybody have any questions?
Any questions for Peggy?
Thank you. What? Did somebody say something? I guess not.
The mayor said something.
Oh, what'd you say?
Thank you so much.
Thanks, girl.
Peggy, you're amazing, yes. I appreciate
Well,
that.
anyway,
to
just
shovel
remember,
sidewalks.
we want Troy Hellenbrand to be our next police chief.
Okay.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Peggy. Anybody else who wants to speak? Anybody else who wants to speak? Okay, I'm going to close that part of the meeting, and we move on to is it 7? It's 7:30,
Yes.
so we can go to the public hearing, which is a Grumpy Troll LLC doing business as Middleton Market Bar is requesting a Class B fermented malt beverage and Class B intoxicating liquor license located at 7622 Lisa Lane, Middleton, Wisconsin. Anybody who wants to speak either for or against? Anybody who wants to speak either for or against? All right. I'm going to close this part of the public hearing, and we are going to move on to the approval of the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I would like to ask that the number 4 on the consent agenda items be removed from the list of consent agenda items to be
All right.
voted on separately.
I agree.
Okay, all right. So we are, in the approval of the consent agenda, we are taking 4 out, and it will be voting for the rest of the items.
I move approval of the consent agenda without item 4.
Okay?
I'd second that.
Okay. Yes, Mike?
Mayor Lurie's informed me that the Grumpy Troll's name has changed to the Roost.
Yeah, I think that's.
The Roost. So for the public record, the minutes will record it as the Roost.
Okay, all right. So we just had a public hearing for
The
the roost.
Roost. They have a bird theme. The aviary, the roost,
The Robin.
the robin pharaoh.
Nice.
Okay, so what is the name now? So which should be here? Is it then, it's a Grumpy Troll still
No,
or
it's
not?
the Roost.
The DBA is the Roost.
DBA is Roost. Okay, all right, so.
So not Middleton Market Bar, but the Roost.
Okay, all right. Okay, so that, the public hearing we just had was for that, so.
Right.
Okay, so for the consent agenda, the motion has been made, it has been seconded. Any other comments or things? So all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes unanimously. So do you want to make a motion for number 4, or?
I would move that we deny the claim from Sentinel Insurance, the Little Gym, for damage from sewer backup on July the 10th, 2017.
Okay. Need a second?
I'm actually going to abstain on this issue.
Oh, you are, okay.
Second.
Okay, all right, second, and now let the discussion begin.
Can you repeat what your motion was? I apologize.
Deny,
Okay.
as staff recommended. The reason I wanted it removed was it wasn't clear in the consent agenda that it was actually a denial, other than the staff comments.
Okay.
Any other lady, you have anything to say?
No.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor of the motion to deny the claim to Central Insurance for the Little Gym for damage from the sewer backup on July 10th, 2017, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes unanimously.
And again, just for the record, I'm abstaining.
Oh, yes, and Robert was abstaining from this one. Okay, we are on to a really great event here now. This is the proclamation for Carissa Johnson. You want to come forward here? So proclamation honoring Carissa Johnson's service to the City of Milton on the Arts Committee. Whereas Carissa Johnson has faithfully and honorably served the City of Milton and the Arts Committee for the past 8 years, 2012 to 2019. And we have the Arts Committee chair over here as well, and then also the members. And whereas the City of Milton has benefited immensely from Carissa's knowledge, experience, and hard work. And whereas Carissa is the leader on the committee, she is a great listener who takes in all viewpoints, summarizes them kindly and with humor, and then determines a next step that can be agreed upon by all committee members. Wow, that's a lot of work, isn't it? And whereas Carissa is a deeply thoughtful person, and her insight will be missed by her fellow committee members and by staff. And whereas Carissa's thoughtful and dedicated service has been of great value to the Milton Arts Committee, the City of Milton is fortunate that Carissa has served this community so as to leave an enduring legacy of success. Now, therefore, I, Gurudeep Rao, Mayor of the City of Milton, do hereby proclaim, honor, and commend Carissa Johnson for her distinguished tenure of public service to the City of Milton on the Arts Committee. On the 7th day of January 2020, we extend our thanks and best wishes and those of the citizens of Milton for Carissa's well-being and her valuable service to our city. This proclamation was adopted at a regular meeting of the Milton Common Council on 7th January 2020. So I need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
I'll second that.
All right, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes unanimously. And we have the other people coming in. Well, all right.
Oh, the other people. Thank
Thank you, Carissa. So agreements. Consent to collateral assignment of development agreement for Middleton Center Phase 3.
Move approval is recommended by Finance.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes unanimously. Miscellaneous authorization to recruit for the position of finance assistant to make our finance department happy.
Move approval is recommended by Finance.
Second.
Any question or comments? Robert,
Also as approved by personnel.
Personnel Committee. All right, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes unanimously. Request for acting duty pay IT technician, one full-time, one part-time employee.
Motion to approve is recommended by personnel and finance.
Second.
And Mike is
And
going to.
Personnel and
clarify.
Finance approved so that one would be the acting assistant director and the other would be acting full-time IT technician.
And this is only for the duration. This is not a,
Right,
you
till
want
we
to
have-
explain that part here?
Until we have a
That's
full
what acting
staff.
duty means.
Yes, yes. Well, a lot of people don't read all that. but
Because
so-
we're currently without the IT director
Yes.
and the assistant IT
Okay,
director.
okay,
So they're
great.
stepping up their service.
Okay.
We also have a firm that has stepped in at city cost to help us in the transition as well.
Okay, thank you, Mike. All those any other questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes. Ordinances, first reading, final action may be taken upon approval or motion to suspend rules under section 1.07 of Milton General Ordinances. Item number 1, ordinance to amend the City of Milton ward boundaries, and this is a new copy which was just handed over to you recently.
Well, just to be clear, well, let's wait for the motion.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Need a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All
Okay.
right, Larry.
Yeah,
Go.
the clean copy of the ordinance is perfect for signature by the mayor, but the red line version is actually what you're voting on. So, because you need to see what's being changed, and it is the red line that does that. So, you vote on that, and then the ultimate effect is in the newly corrected ordinance version.
Could I make a recommendation to suspend the rules and pass effective immediately?
Okay, need a second.
I'll second.
Mike, you have something to say?
Words right out of my mouth.
All right, the way to go. Okay, yes, Robert.
I would make one other comment that the marked up version that's in our packet had something that was incorrect. So the clean version has it corrected. So when we say we're voting on the redlined version, it puts back the incorrection. Incorrect.
What is
Which
incorrect?
is,
Yes,
which
it's
is, in
incorrect.
the adopting language, it still shows H,
Yes,
and it should be E.
correct. The
Right.
thing in parentheses says H.
Right.
And so I would make sure that we are clear that it should be E, Aldermanic District 5.
Right.
Okay, so with the, Mark, is that okay with you?
Of course.
Okay, any other comments, Robert or anyone else? All those in favor of the motion as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes, so Luke got a few more words here or whatever, so. All right. Now, item number 2, ordinance approving adoption of amendment to 01500 relating to the ward designation to the newly adopted property.
Move we suspend the rules and approve final reading.
Second.
Any comments, Larry, about this one or anything else?
No, I think the text lays out why it's being done.
Okay.
We were given incorrect information by the county clerk,
Mhm.
and now they changed their mind where it belongs, and we're simply implementing their advice,
Okay,
just as to the ward.
okay, all right. So, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? So the motion passes unanimously. Recommendation and proposals, revised concept for tax incremental District 5, assistance JT Klein for 3810 in Tribeca.
Move approval.
Need a
Need
second.
a second.
I'll second.
Okay, the discussion, let the discussion begin. Mark?
I don't have anything to say.
Okay. And anyone else? Yes, Robert.
I'd ask that Mr. Klein come up. I heard when, during the finance portion of the earlier meeting, that he was asking for 85%. I guess I want to make sure that we know what we're being asked of here.
Yeah, I mean, the last meeting we had, you'd asked for if we would consider 85, and I think what you guys are doing to revise how you have these meetings is a good idea, because it's hard to sit up here and have people ask you questions related to the finances of a $28 million project, and if you're moving variables around. I mean, I got Excel to do that for me. They get jumbled in the head. And so, yes, with what we submitted to the city, we are asking for 85%. Staff had recommended 80. The project still has a substantial gap that we're banking on. We increased in our latest assumptions, going from $1 million from Dane County to $1.5 million from Dane County. So, we've increased the deferred developer fee to over 50% of the fee being deferred, which is also subject to, we're underwriting at the current interest rate, which gives us zero cushion in any interest rate fluctuation. We're underwriting the maximum tax credit pricing allowed by WIDA, which gives us no cushion in whether or not pricing changes. Construction costs, we've talked with our general contractor, that's another fluctuation. I mean, we've, skinnied this thing down to as far as I've ever pushed a deal in the 15 years that I've ever been doing this. And our request would be for 85%, willing to, my request would be for 100%, because then I can sleep at night not worrying about, having to basically do all this work, and if I don't get $1.5 million from the county, I don't have a deal. So, yeah, so the request is for 85%, yeah.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
He has a question.
I have a question, but we're voting on
Yes.
80%.
Yeah, we are voting on 80%,
Okay.
not 85, which is more or less equal to what was originally asked. So I think it's, yeah. Okay. Is that your question? We are voting on 80%, not 85. So
I would propose a substitute motion to go to 85% to make this, if we're going to go down this path, I want at least it to be successful. So that would be a motion that I would make.
Second that.
okay. So the motion is to go up to 85%. Yes, Bill.
Yes, if there's discussion about that, the staff the staff recommendation of 80% would be a total TIF dollar amount of just under 3.8 million, 3,796,096. If you were to go to 85%, that would increase the total TIF payment for the project to 4,033,352. And I just wanted to report that as we were discussing the revised project with the developer, we had originally come in, or the developer had come in with a number saying that they wanted to have 85% to get them up to 3.8 million. By using the updated tax rate and adjusting the inflation assumption to the 2.5%, that brought the projection up to 3.8 million and still at the 80%. That was staff's recommendation. And then we learned after that that the developer was intending to ask for 85%, which would bump it up from the 3.8 million to about 4 million.
So it is originally what he had asked for, he is already getting with 80%.
That's my understanding.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you're going to
So-
85%, wouldn't you want to have some of the units be lower interest or lower income than what is currently proposed?
I can't speak to what he's required to do under, so I don't know. It would be,
Well, that would be to the benefit, if we're doing the, if we were to consider the extra 5%, I think it would be worth reconsidering the mix of affordable units too, if we are considering the.
I just have to ask, right? So here we are, we're back in the same situation. Finance has not been able to look at the entire package for this. And so that leaves us with staff recommendations. Staff is giving the developer what he asked for originally at 3.8. I don't think that as a matter of policy and as a matter of prudence, that we should say, here, Mr. Developer, take another 300 grand. That makes absolutely no finance sense, right? The deal is good from the city's perspective at 80%. It's recommended by staff. If you're going to approve it, you should approve it at 80%.
Okay, yes, Susan.
Could Jacob explain why he needs to go from 80 to 85%?
I'll tell you why. I want 300 grand too.
Well, but we're talking about, we're in the ether right now, so the important thing is to concentrate on the facts. The fact is, you know, you can change, by changing the appreciation up and by changing the mill rate and keeping it constant, all that's saying is that here's what we think it might be. There's no guarantee of that. You know, so what we were in here before, we're really talking, to me, it's about 80%, 85%, or 90%. And at 80, when I'm running my numbers today, we've always ran it at 90%. We switched it to 85%, and we're using, you know, less aggressive assumptions on, we're basically using the assumptions that we used in the past. And so what happened was, I had reached out and was down the path of going for 85%. They said, oh, well, you know, we're willing to adjust the appreciation. Well, that doesn't change the economics of it at all for the city. What I'm asking for is that the economics change for the city, and that we get 85% of the TIF, the city gets 15% of the TIF, and at the end of the day, how the numbers fall is how the numbers fall. You know, it's not like we can underwrite any more debt in the project. You know, one thing that is important is that, you know, when we're trying to balance the financial sources here, right? So the WIDA's policy, which I gave to the city, is that they will only loan on 90% of the TIF amount. So they discount the rate. So even to get to deferring half of the fee, we have to bake in there this additional 10% that WIDA's discounting. Because I can't, you know, 3.8 or whatever, the number ends up being what the principal amount is. So I think it's difficult because in how I do the numbers is the principal amount, what's coming to the project, whereas the city looks at it, what's the total cost. So when you say 3.8 million, that's not really what's going into the project. It's a difference of, I think, 2.7 million going to the project versus like 2.55 at 80 and 85%. And so that difference plus the additional 10% is what gets us to a point that we have a project that's underwritable and gets in this box of these institutional investors that we deal with. And so that's the request today.
Any questions for Jacob? So, Dan, you have some questions?
I second what Mark said. We have this staff recommendation of 80. We, in our last meeting, we agreed to 80. To come back now and try to negotiate to 85, it's beyond the pale to me.
My question, at finance, I thought that the 80% was to meet what the investors wanted. I thought the 80%, there was no talk of 85% to make sure that you would get the institutional investors on board. I thought you said 80% would do that.
Any other questions or comments? So the motion is amended motion is to approve at 80%. The staff recommendation is 80%.
And
Proceed.
the substitute motion
Is
was
for
to approve the
85%.
agreement with 80, that's what's on the
Yes,
table.
yes, that's on the table. And the staff recommendation was 80%. So all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone, those opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
So that's 4-3, right? Oh,
Motion fails.
yeah, motion fails.
Fails.
Okay. Okay, so is there now we vote on the,
If someone wants, it's an amended motion, now someone should make a motion for the original
I would move
recommended number.
approval of the original motion at 80%.
I'll second that.
okay. Any questions or comments on that one? Okay, all those in favor of the motion to approve this revised tax concept for TIF 5 for JT Klein for 3810 Tribeca at 80%, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
So it's 5-2. It's approved, so. Okay, so the next item, number 2, is and a big one, after many years of work, recommendation for City of Milton tax incremental financing policy.
Move approval is recommended by finance.
Second.
This is to have an effective date after approved by the council, and is to only, so essentially everything that's in the pipeline is grandfathered under the old process, and new process would start from this point forward.
Okay, need a second? Oh, you seconded it. Okay, Katie, you have some questions. so.
I'm on the Arts Committee, and we've been kicking around this idea of something that is going on in Green Bay called a percent for art.
Mhm.
And I talked with, excuse me, Mike a while ago about this, and he said that it has come up before, but I am going to champion this mission on page 41 under TIF eligible project costs, number 15 in section, it's the middle of the page, site-specific public art projects. That I was glad to see that it's listed, but I wrote to Bill this afternoon and talked to him about how Green Bay has required 1% of a TIF project going to public art. While I think that's kind of a big number and maybe prohibitive, Bill and I were kicking around the idea of just maybe the 1% of the amount of TIF that's awarded. And so I just want to put that out there as an idea to maybe be added to this policy at some point.
So would that be
So could I make
Motion.
a motion or a recommendation that we take that up at the council of the whole meeting at the end of the January?
Yeah, that's a great idea. I
Okay.
second that.
okay, so all those in favor of this motion to take up? Yes,
I had a
Susan?
question.
Yes.
I mean, at that percentage, it's sounding like 1% of 3 million is 300,000? 30,000? Not a great arithmetic. I'm concerned if we're supporting public art, why aren't we supporting workforce housing?
I guess we are supporting
think we are
workforce
supporting
housing.
workforce housing.
We just approved $3.9 million.
But we're arguing so much over workforce housing and what it cost. I think we need to keep that in perspective. I see that as a much more critical, important thing for the city.
I
Even
agree
though
that
I
it's very
support
important. And I'm on both committees, so I am for both. However, I just think that the vote we just did was more of a message like, you asked for this, and you're getting this.
I
Go
think,
through the process is, I think, the message that we,
okay, I have a request then that we ask Professor Paulson to come talk to us sometime and really explain TIF, workforce housing, and the finances behind it, because frankly, the discussions have been all over the place, and I think we need a clear understanding of it.
Might that also be something that, at the commission of the whole, if we were gonna be talking about
Yep.
things anyway, that some portion of time,
Yeah, committee of the whole,
Spent to
that's
be-
probably.
Well, and
what
it's the plan commission and the committee of the whole, and
sorry, thank you, committee of the whole.
Kurt Paulson's on the plan commission.
Yeah.
But
Shouldn't deal a lot with the TIF portion of it, though, the financing portion of it?
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Yeah, so I don't know if that would be a,
It's more to understand,
I think
not
they,
the TIF,
they still,
yeah.
workforce housing portion, some of the formulas being used. I don't know,
Yeah,
if,
that's-
if you'd be willing
For
to,
mayor.
Yeah, yeah.
it might make sense to have that be an educational
Yeah,
portion
education
of
is
the
always
committee
good,
of the
yes.
whole as
Yeah,
well.
nothing wrong with
Right.
that. So if you can put on the committee of the whole or plan commission, wherever you think it's
Sure,
appropriate. so-
sure. Can I
Okay,
just
yes, Mike?
Comment on the percent for the art. I've had the opportunity, because I was in a community 30 years ago that adopted percent for the art for capital projects in that community. That was Bloomington, Indiana. And I go back once a year, and I'm very impressed with the flourishing of art all through the community and how it's beautified. And it's really spurred economic development. There are more and more studies that show that the arts do spur economic development. So I'm fully in support of what Katie's talking about. Not that I get to vote, but I thought I'd mention that because I've seen it. I was in a community that adopted it. It was controversial at first, but I've seen it work over time. And I've read about it working in other communities as well.
And Mike, so much economic development that you don't need workforce housing, looks like it?
I wouldn't say that. No,
I'm just joking.
and you know, and Larry can mention this as well. But you know, from
Larry,
what we've seen in Europe with public art and historic preservation over time, it's the same kind of thing. It really does spur economic development.
yeah, when you look hundreds of years later, you know, the art would be important. Yes, Larry?
And
I
jobs
agree.
for artists are
I agree
often
with what
for
Mike
the
just said.
Yeah, no,
working
art,
poor.
art helps a lot, so I guess that's a
so
good idea.
important, they wrote it into the Geneva contract, right?
Okay, so the motion is to refer this to, which committee?
Committee of the whole?
Committee of the whole.
Committee of the whole.
And
And
I've
it was
seconded
already
it.
seconded. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes. Now we on to the original motion.
No,
So,
if it's been referred, that's.
no, they only referred only,
Oh, okay.
only that part of it, at
Fair
least
enough.
I think, right?
Right.
That
Oh,
was the
right, that's
intent?
just for that, yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so now we are voting on the TIF policy which is in front of us here now. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the TIF policy is passed. All right. We are on to now
Resolution.
resolutions. Resolution 20-02, adopting certain equipment rates for contractor services and ordinance violation assessment.
Move approval is recommended by finance.
Second.
Any questions or comments? It's a routine thing which we do.
What was resolution?
Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes. We are going to go into closed session now.
Just a point of order. Hey, Mike, what was 2020-01?
Oh, so it, okay.
So we haven't seen it yet. Okay.
We skipped that and we are moving forward.
Okay.
2020 is only for even numbers.
Very good question, Mark. Robert
I was just gonna say.
Maybe you're surpassing.
Competition.
Maybe you're surpassing the master.
I'm surprised you've seen that.
Okay,